Hello there. Welcome back to Around the Grid with Haas currently, with the pairing of Alonso and Hamilton. And today, we're going to kind of try and speed up this progression a little bit in the terms that we're going to be trying to finish the whole season. So we're going to be skipping a lot of what's going on. But let's face it here, we are leading at basically two-thirds throughout this season with over 400 points to Ferrari and Red Bull. So let's face it, there's no real challenge left for us. The only real deal would be Hamilton versus Alonso, which Hamilton is currently leading pretty significantly as well. So with that in mind, I'm thinking that this season has kind of reached its peak already. So we're going to be focusing this episode on mainly just a little bit on developing the car, so we have a little bit more competition next year, but also on developing yeah, as I mentioned, developing the car, but also a little bit on reporting what's happening in the races, particularly if we have races where we take penalties, just to showcase just how strong our car actually is, as well as some smaller incidents. But generally, yeah, we should have a pretty smooth sailing here today. And as I said, I'm planning on trying to get all of the remaining races completed. That's basically us doing the last 9 races here. So I believe it's 9. Let's see, 3, 6, 9. Yeah, 9 races, including the sprints. And we'll be trying to, as said, get them done today here so that we can get started on the next team. And currently, if we have a look at the championship, that does seem to be McLaren. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting one. But yeah, things are currently heating up a little bit. Albon and Tsunoda is currently at McLaren. I think we might just stick with these drivers if we do go there. So yeah, that's the plan. That's the idea. We'll see how it pans out. But we are just going to jump directly into the Italian GP. We are having a sideboard design here completed, but let's face it, we're not really going to need any of these in the near future. We are already fairly dominant. But as was mentioned on the comments of the last video, we are going to speed through this episode. We are going to try and develop a bit of a challenging car for us to deal with next year. Hamilton is retiring, but we'll try and keep Alonso for one more year in the Haas and see if he can give us a fight next year. But yeah, let's jump to Monza. Let's see how this season develops. So we actually immediately get a bit of an interesting event here in the factory fire. So we do have a bit of a situation here where we're lacking, not really suspensions, but we are lacking side pods. So we could see the need to emergency manufacture. Hopefully we will not have to do that. But we're going to have shut down our projects here for 8 days, which is going to include basically potentially Singapore as well. So we'll have to see if we actually get through Singapore without any problems. But yeah, side pods could potentially be causing us some extra emergency manufacturing costs right now, which would hamper development a little bit. Over the course of the next 3 races at Monza, Suzuka, Singapore, and also Qatar Sprint, we do really well, 1, 2 in all of them. Unfortunately, that changes when we get to the Qatar race itself. While the race up to this point has gone very well with 1-2s, we have had a bit of an incident here involving Alonso that has sent him, well, into the one Qatar, where we were in a incredibly dominant position. As you can see here, we are leading pretty heavily here. Hamilton, good 20 seconds ahead. We have Norris in third. But this does throw a bit of a wrench in our plans. And in particular, I think it's going to potentially cost a lot of money because it's a red triangle there on the powertrain. The chassis is broken, front wing suspension is gone. And if we take a look at the powertrain, that's his final engine of the season, which means we are going to need to buy a new one. This is also the final ERS, which means we're going to need to buy a new one, and potentially also going to need to buy a new gearbox. So this is a fairly expensive crash altogether. And, well, we are at Qatar, which means that there aren't too many races remaining. I believe it's just 5 after this one. It's still going to be a little bit, it's still going to cause a little bit of problems. But honestly, we are so far ahead that we have probably won the season already. Because the teams that are following us are pretty close. They're fighting basically, I think there's 3 teams currently fighting for second. But yeah, that does throw a bit of a monkey wrench into our plans. Currently, though, it's just a virtual safety car. I'm just going to allow Hamilton to stay out. You can kind of see here the gap that he has to work with here. So unless he has an incident, we should be seeing Hamilton winning this. We've also been focusing on researching the car. We'll have a look at that once we're done with this race. But for now, we will do the last 10 laps and make sure that we also get fastest lap.
Such a proud
So yeah,
moment
there
for
we
me.
have it. Hamilton does win, unsurprisingly. 44 seconds ahead of Norris, and, well,
Oh, and
lapping
it's
a
Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton with
fair
the win
few
today.
drivers here. But as I mentioned, we do have a few problems that we need to deal with now with Alonso's car. And as I said, up until this point, the last 3 races before this, we've been kind of doing this episode, we have been doing 1-2s with relative ease. So the season is more or less decided already. Magnus is scoring some important point here for Alpine by getting himself on a podium. But yeah, if we take a look at the Drivers' Championship, I'm pretty sure Hamilton has already kind of settled it. If the crash was the opposite way, maybe Alonso would have a bit of a chance, but unfortunately for us, no real fight between our drivers. And as you can see here, we have basically 4 teams potentially that could fight for that second place. They're going to be taking a ton of points off each other, and let's be honest here, we're leading with with around 550 points. They're not catching us in the last remaining race of the season. There's 5 race weekends remaining, but even that, there's just no way they are even getting close to us. So it is what it is. But this season is basically drawing to close. We'll just have to see which team ends up finishing the lowest out of the ones that we haven't played. But yeah, as mentioned, there's 5 races remaining: Austin, Mexico, or COTA, Mexico, Sao Paulo, Las Vegas, and Abu Dhabi. So that should be fairly straightforward and simple. Now, we have been working on the car because, as I mentioned, we were going to try and make the car good for next year. We've done a little bit of chassis research. Need to start doing some front wing. We've done a little bit on the rear wing, nothing too major just yet. And what we're going to do with the underfloor here is actually use CFD time. We have CFD time available to us. We are already running research projects for these parts. So as soon as those projects are done, we're going to be starting with, CFD time for that underfloor. But the main thing of concern right now is actually Alonso's car. We'll have to see if we actually have enough components to replace what did get damaged. And by looks of the thing, everything got damaged on this one. It's a little bit unfortunate. And let's go ahead and improve that side pod. We have to use an older spec because we're lacking parts. It's actually a pretty major issue here because now we have no spare, so to speak. We're running, as you can see, we have an extra chassis, extra rear wing, a couple extra front wings, but that is it. Now, in terms of the damage, as I mentioned here, we are going to need to buy a new engine. That is for sure. Now, financially, that's going to be a bit sketchy. Cost cap wise, it's not going to be too big of a deal, but it is going to be limiting the research that we can do. We're also going to have to buy an ERS. And while we do still have a fresh gearbox, I think we are going to need another one. Because let's face it, this gearbox needs to survive practice too. And with only 9% remaining on this one, that isn't happening until the end of the season. So, come Austin, we're going to be spending 8.5 million on parts for Alonso. It just has to be done. And not really much we can do about that. But in positive news, we have gotten the factory upgrade to level 3. We actually had an event that sped it up a little bit. So we now can actually do 4 manufactured projects at once. That is going to help with getting ourselves back into the positive in terms of parts. And as I did say, we have done a bit of research. We're currently doing rear wing underfloor, a bit on side pods. It's probably going to get switched to front wing. And the chassis research here, once it's done, it's going to be switched to suspension. So we're doing a little bit of that. Chassis is pretty far behind on this car. That's why we focused on that. But yeah, we're definitely going to be trying to make this car a bit of a challenge for us to deal with come next year. And the best way to do that is actually to do research, since all the regulation changes affect cornering the most. So that is the goal. Let's see how we end up pulling it off. I do have faith. But yeah, we'll be taking some penalties at COTA. The Munt is going to take over though. Not that that is going to benefit us because financially we run a negative monthly balance. But yeah, what I'm going to do here is just focus on trying to get all the parts that we're currently lacking back on into the positives. Once we've done that, we'll buy the new parts at the next race weekend. So let's head towards COTA. So here we are with the initial underfloor research completed. This is not the one we use CFD time on, but even here, you can see that it is a little bit of a boost for next year, and the rear wing research has also been completed. Now, in other news, financially, we aren't doing that hot. As you can see, we have 1.5 million in the bank, which is, I believe, just about enough that we can actually start an underfloor research. But as I mentioned, we are severely lacking in parts at the moment, and that is going to bite us in the arse. But we have spent a lot of money leading up to COTA here, just making those parts, which shouldn't come as a big surprise. And we are going to be buying, most likely, as I said, a new engine for Alonso, ERS, gearbox at COTA. So we'll be going into the negatives for a little while. Might get fired, potentially. I don't think we will be. But we are putting a little bit of a risk on the financial situation there, as we are most likely going to go quite a bit in depth. So we might gamble on Alonso, say, starting at the back of the grid and then going to second, see if we can get a little bit of that money back. But yeah, you can already see here kind of how strong this CFD underfloor research is. 0.25 low speed, 32 medium, 45 high speed, a little bit of top speed, and some dirty air tolerance. It's going to do this team well come next year. And as you can see, the biggest hit is going to be low speed. So if we really wanted to here, we could say sacrifice some high speed to get a little bit of more low speed and medium speed. But let's face it, we sacrifice 0.02 full high speed Gs for not a lot of medium and low speed. So we're going to go ahead and just fully focus on cornering at research. And with that, we have 100k to our name and no way to get started on that final research. It's probably going to take a couple races before we get that going. But for now, we're just going to jump directly into COTA, see how it goes during the sprint, see if we can get the car back into working order, more or less. So, as mentioned, we're going to need to buy some new parts, and we're going to get started by buying an engine. This is still usable for this race weekend, let's be perfectly honest. We could probably use it for a couple more races without really seeing any big deals. But we are going to be needing to buy these new parts there. We already did just buy the engine, but just almost 5 million in debt. And we're going to go ahead and buy a new ERS. I think we are going to need one. You're going to lose about 5% a race. We have 5 race weekends remaining. 2 of them are sprint weekends. So again, I think we would maybe get by. But we're just going to go ahead and be on the safe side. We'll try and use this ERS for the most part until it breaks or get close to 40%. But for the... I'm pretty certain that we are going to need a new gearbox. We can actually buy and install a new gearbox after the quality. That's not going to be a big deal here. We'll just get the quality done, use this gearbox a little bit, and then we should be fine. And again, we're getting the gearbox mainly because I don't think the 7% that we have left on this one is going to be enough to get us through, as I said, 2 sprint weekends, 3 regular race weekends, 5 race weekends total for the end of this season. That's going to be the idea. I think Hamilton might be good, but even he would probably benefit from an engine at Abu Dhabi. But he has enough in his arsenal here that I think he's going to be fairly safe to, not needing to buy anything else unless it crashes. But we'll have to see. Financially, though, this is going to sting, and we'll have to see if we can do a bit of recovery in this race weekend. But for now, we're going to jump directly into quali, see where we stack up, and then we have the sprint itself. The sprint itself, pretty smooth sailing here. Piastri had a bit of a crash to put him to the back of the grid, but Alonso is ahead of Hamilton. We're most likely going to get another 1-2 here, unless we have him missing last few corners. That's also going to give Alonso a bit of a better starting point come, the full race, as Hamilton will bump to the front line, Alonso will be further to the back, but we'll have to see exactly how we're going to handle that kind of recovery drive that we are going to have to do for him, because we did get a new gearbox as well. So this is probably going to be, I think, the most interesting race for us just from Alonso's perspective. But as you can see here, there's also a lot of other cars taking penalties. Even Piastri, who finished last due to his crash, is taking the penalties. So he might not actually start completely at the back of the grid. We'll see though, because we are taking basically as many penalties as we can here. So we're kind of limited in that regard. But yeah, 1-2 in the sprint, 19 grid place penalty, starting 19th, probably only Piastri behind. So yeah, we got through it without too much of a fuzz there. Now, with that said, we're gonna have to come up with a decent strategy here, and what I do think that we kind of want to do here is going to be start on a soft compound, push it absolutely to the limit, go on to a bit more of a medium one, run that one light, and since it is a sprint weekend, we should have another medium, run that light too. And as you can see, it's basically just a second or so quicker than the base strategy here. But the idea is very simple. We push as much as we can. We pit early. We get off the back of the grid by the time they pit. We do get a lot of, overtakes for free. But there isn't really too much here we can do to kind of change things around. We could, of course, start on a hard tire, try and push that a little bit. We could jump on a hard tire later on, switch things around. That is too a viable thing to do. You actually do have somewhat a lot of freedom here. But as you can see, it's not going to be necessarily anything quicker than what we're already doing. So we're just going to do this because it's simple, it's easy, it gets the job done. We could, of course, try and add a soft stint in here or something. But this kind of does fulfill our requirements. And just to show you kind of the opposite here, for Hamilton, we're actually just going to start him on the hard tire because we can actually push it pretty far. He has already a fairly dominating starting position, let's be perfectly honest. We just need to create a gap out front and then pit, hopefully around the time that the others pit, kind of maintain that gap until the end. And this gets that job done. And for Alonso, again, it's just pitting early to minimize the time lost behind other cars. And by the time they pit, we basically should be back up behind them. So that is the idea behind the two strategies. We'll see how it turns out come first pit stop. But I'm pretty sure Alonso here will be doing fairly well. And I do want to do one little thing here with the finish precision for the race target. But looks like I'm not allowed to kind of change that, unfortunately. So, yeah, can't mess with it, which is a bit of a shame. I guess it's because it's a sprint race, but it's fine. We'll get that done. As you can see, the sponsor goal here is one that the sponsor set himself. We can't really edit anything else. We just need to make sure we have fastest lap. And also both drivers in the top 15 for a little bit extra money. So yeah, with that done, let's just jump into COTA here. Probably just going to skip in at the first pit stop. We'll see how Alonso does. Well, we've had yet another incident
Here we are then
with
at the 11th
Alonso
corner.
this time.
Now there's an
The
inviting
Merc.
opportunity there.
See, they kind of drift into each other. Doesn't really lose anything, but it's not the best start. Although it did get up to 16th place by the first couple of corners here, so a really good launch at the very least. Ocon does eat the penalty for it, but yeah, that probably didn't do wonders for the confidence here. So we're gonna have to build that back up without getting any more incidents. But it's been a very good start here for Alonso. We're going up on the first pit stop here. Alonso has worked his way up into 12, so it's gone actually fairly well. But the tires are shot, and we are going to jump into the pit. As you can see, every single car is basically running still together. So, again, I think this is the best option that we do have. Alonso should have a little bit of time now before these guys run out of tire themselves. As you can see, Hamilton is also pushing. But yeah, before they run out of tire, Alonso should have a little bit of an advantage in pace and should be able to get up to the back of Piastri, maybe even start working on getting some overtaking done. But as you can imagine, the goal here is pretty straightforward in the sense that we want him to get as close as he can, get as many free overtakes as he can as the pit stops do start. And judging by this, it seems like it is going to go fairly well. We are going to be pushing a little bit extra fuel here, just to make it a little bit easier. But we are gaining between 1 to 2 seconds each lap, so if it takes 4 more laps until they pit, everything will have gone according to plan. Even though Hamilton now has a little bit of a spin of his own, I believe that is why the yellow flag is out. But not really a big deal. He stays ahead, but we've had a few incidents these last couple of races, which is worrisome. But luckily enough, he was so far ahead, didn't really lose too much to the cars behind. Probably lost a little bit on the hard tire, but that should be okay. Okay, so yeah, Alonso is catching up quickly, I dare say. And that is kind of what we're hoping for. Just 6 seconds behind now. And if we take a look here, the pit stop take about 20 seconds. So in the event that anyone were to pit right now, he might potentially be able to jump all the way up to 4th place. And that will make his life a lot easier. As Show now does pit. Let's see if we can actually jump him. We should be able to. Though it did look like he had a bit of a slower stop. But yeah, you kind of get the idea here what the strategy was. By pitting early, we can put Alonso in a good position here where he doesn't have to overtake the entire pack. The pack just gets out of the way for him because he's in such a quick car. So it looks like it's going to work very well. Let's see exactly where he is once everyone has done their first stops. So most cars are pitting now, with Sainz being the furthest one ahead. And he is going to come out ahead of Alonso. We did get a little bit held up here. But you kind of get the idea. We're already back up into 7th. Stroll needs to pit. Norris needs to pit. Gasly needs to pit. There's still 3 cars ahead that does need to pull on pit stops. Now, Gasly, if he's lucky, could come out ahead of us. But even then, Alonso has pulled off here kind of what we needed from him. And the strategy is working out really, really well so far. We'll just have to see if we can keep it going until the end of the race, as other cars now are going to start being a little bit quicker than us, just based purely on tires. But as you can see, came out there ahead of Gasly, and we're not too far off here, second place, just 5 seconds. We're getting a bit close to the end here now, just 16 laps to go. Alonso should be able to do it on the tires that he's currently on. Hamilton is still very happy out in front, just got fresh mediums, 12 seconds down to Russell. And if we take a look at the pit stops here, Verstappen behind needs to pit. A lot of the cars behind have pitted. But we are getting into a comparable range now in terms of tire wear, if you will. So we're going to most likely have a bit of an advantage at the finish line. Now, Russell and Norris does still need to pit, but they aren't really that far up the road here. Russell is 12 seconds ahead. Norris kind of the same. Sainz is a couple of seconds ahead of us, and he's kind of the biggest rival that we have for that second place. But honestly, I think by the end of this, we'll be able to catch up to him. The only thing that we need to deal with is fuel that we're going to start probably saving in about 5 laps time, as both Norris and Russell does pit now. And with that, we are up in 3rd. Just need to catch Sainz by the end of this. And we have something that might throw a bit of a span in the works here. We've had an incident with multiple cars. Drogovic and the Williams. Luckily enough, just a minor incident involving both of them. So that should be just a yellow flag. Yeah, Alonso has caught up. We're about 10 laps to go here. Fuel is becoming more and more of a non-issue as Alonso gets the overtake done. And Norris is going to be a bit of a threat there coming up from behind on a soft tire. But degradation is high here, and with still 10 laps to go, we can, of course, use Sainz as a bit of a buffer. But 10 laps, he has 10% on us. Those softs are going to be worse than our mediums by the end of this, I'm pretty certain. So looking very, very good here at the moment. And now we have a full virtual safety car. And I'm thinking that we are going to take advantage of this to maybe put Hamilton on a fresh set of soft tires to make absolutely sure that we get fastest lap. So we're going to go ahead and do that. He has a huge gap ahead of us. Piastri is having an incredibly bad weekend, crashing once again. He did the same in the sprint. And he is just sliding off. I think that might have been the same corner. I'm not completely sure. Yeah, same area of the track, unfortunately for him. Now, Alonso is not far enough ahead of anyone here, really, for us to pit onto a quicker compound. But the safety car is going to make it a little bit easier to make it till the end of those mediums.
Understood.
As I said here, for Hamilton, the goal is just to pit, to get onto a fresh set of softs, guarantee that we get fastest lap. And as you can see, we could do that with relative ease. Huge gap there down to Alonso. And we do lose about 16 seconds, so not really a big deal. I think we're just going to put him in here to go for fast lap already. Shouldn't be a big deal. And for Alonso, we're going to keep on managing him. And we'll see where we stand once we get to the actual end of this race. We're currently on the final lap. Alonso has created a little bit of a gap here with the help of aggressive tires and a little bit of pushing fuel. Second place more than guaranteed. And for Hamilton, he did get fastest lap. No surprise there. So I feel like we've done this race weekend fairly well.
Yes, guys.
And honestly, it's a good result for us, so I can't be too upset. There we go. Ferrari 3-4 though. Russell and Gasly 5-6 for Alfa Romeo. It's going to keep things a little bit interesting. But yeah, a good race by all accounts for us. Just a shame that we couldn't get the mess with the sponsorships to get more money. That would have been fairly good. Let's just have a look at where we stand right now. Again, Alonso, good recovery drive. Not completely unexpected, to be fair. Driver Championship then, we still lead pretty heavily. I'm pretty sure, as I said, no one can catch Hamilton at this stage. And not even Alonso. So Hamilton, world champion. Constructors, still no way anyone catches us, but Ferrari is getting more and more certain in that second place. The fight here is mostly for fourth and third at the moment, as Red Bull has been struggling a little bit. McLaren's still lost, so nothing new really to report from that perspective. Financially, this is the one that's going to probably sting a little bit. We did spend 8.5 million on new parts. We are paying a little bit for bonuses. And let's be honest here, the money that we get paid from our sponsorship isn't high. So we're going to have to do Mexico before we can do the next research. And even then, we might need to wait for the next race after that. Because, well, we're 5 million in the hole. So that's going to sting a little bit. We are in debt. The board's probably not going to like that very much. Let's be perfectly honest. But even then, I don't think they're gonna care too much. They're delighted. We have a high board confidence still, so yeah, I don't see us getting sacked for this. Let's just jump directly into Mexico and see how we do there. In Mexico, it has been fairly smooth sailing here, as both Alonso and Hamilton are driving in kind of formation at the moment. We are currently on the virtual safety car. We're about to start final lap here. We were kind of charging here to try and set fastest lap, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, no way we're getting that now with that virtual safety car on the table, so to speak, as we just crossed the finish line with both cars. Virtual safety car still active, but even then, it's going to most likely be another 1-2 here, as Perez and Verstappen have a little bit of a coming together. Interesting enough, virtual safety car is ending, but yeah, we've lost too much of the lap to really have a reasonable time at the reasonable chance of setting past this lap, unfortunately. But yeah, this has been smooth sailing as well. We did have one incident here. You can kind of see it for both Alonso and Hamilton. But even then, still fairly smooth sailing here. Norris third, Stroll fourth, Drogovic fifth, Sainz, Gasly, Perez, Verstappen, and then Russell that final point. And even with that penalty, Verstappen is going to be safe. He's just going to fall down to 10. So, not the worst race in the world, but we got things done here. Now, we do still have the problem of finances, and in particular, we're kind of struggling for parts at the moment, as after last race, we had to replace everything but the front wing on Hamilton's car. He didn't actually have any damage from crashing, it's just wear and tear. But yeah, with these results, we still have, again, fairly dominating lead. Constructors, Ferrari is kind of settling in that second place. Red Bull has fallen down to basically the fifth best team at the moment, so we'll be getting to them fairly soon, as it looks like. And McLaren is still struggling, unfortunately. But yeah, that is the current state of affairs. We also had, as you can see there, a bit of a pit stop error, but it didn't really affect the race in any meaningful way. So another good one. But yeah, manufacturing completed, but as I said, we do want to try and deal with some of the parts that we're lacking. We currently do have a bit of a... We're kind of financially strained, but we're back into the positives now. So we did make a decent chunk of change on that last race. We're going to go directly into Brazil, but before we do, I want to just have a look here and kind of go through the warehouse, make sure that we manufacture the things that take a little while so that we have enough parts for the last few races. And I think what I want to do is get chassis, sidewalls, underflow, and suspension up to 4, because again, they take a long time to make, and to be fair, while it's just 3 races remaining, any emergency manufacturing here is going to put us into a pretty negative position. So, while we're still fine with parts, it was a little bit worrisome at the end of the last race weekend. You can kind of see it here. This is the last race weekend, Hamilton's car here. 5, it was actually underfloor that passed on the front wing. I misremembered. But yeah, basically a lot of the parts did fail, and it did leave us a little bit worried. Apparently 2 days ago we were in debt. No, we're not anymore. But still, we aren't looking great either, so we'll have to deal with that. But yeah, we're just gonna head directly into Brazil here. Nothing really big to say. Speed through, and we might breach 1,000 points here this season. Let's see if we can get that done. Brazil was another case of smooth sailing. We won 2 both in sprint and race. A little bit close to Paris due to there being some rain, but nothing that we could not handle, and we do take another 1-2. Now, for this next part here, the audio actually did have a bit of an issue, so I'm basically going over it again as we are designing a front wing with CFD time for the purpose of getting some low speed cornering gain for the car next year to make it a little bit more competitive so we have something to fight. Front wing does seem to be the best option for us, and it should be the one. It should be the option that will be the strongest for Haas at the moment. Hence why we're focusing on low speed, just a little bit on medium speed, and we do end up getting more, well, low speed cornering by focusing on the airflow as well.
Alonso has done it. Fernando Alonso is today's Grand Prix winner.
We are getting to the end of the season here. Final lap in Abu Dhabi in a fairly uneventful race, except for Show crashing out, which led to a VSC. Didn't really have any effect on the race though, as Alonso is currently leading, Hamilton second. Hamilton has been racing with a bit of engine damage, but he's still going to get his 8th title here, as Alonso is now getting towards the end, while Hamilton is setting purple sectors here, of course, going for that fastest lap on the final lap of the race. We have another incident, last lap incident. There's been quite a few of them this year, so let's take a quick look here. Tsunoda in 5th versus the Alpine, and there is slight contact, let's put it like that. But yeah, Alonso wins. Hamilton should easily come in here in second and get the fastest lap. And with that, we've had a fairly incredible season here for the Haas team. It's been pretty easy, honestly, which is usually how it is, particularly after the big regulation, because the AI is bad at research. But as we get into the next 7 seasons, if we do them all perfectly, we should be having a few more battles that we are going to need to deal with. But yeah, 1-2 here for our team. Verstappen back on the podium, so bit of a comeback there from the Red Bulls. Magnussen scoring points for the Alpines. Tsunoda scoring points for the McLarens here could be interesting, because in theory, that should be our next team. But Hamilton here does get his a title in this game at least, with 573 points, 15 wins, 23 podiums, no DNFs, and 2 sprint wins. Alonso, 3 sprint wins, 19 podiums, single DNF, 8 race wins. So we ended up winning all races this season, and well, we did fairly well. We did lose out on some poles, as you can see, but that is fine. Not really a big deal. 1,047 points, Ferrari second. Then we have Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tauri. These are 2 teams we already played. So it's good to see that they are doing all right, honestly. And even with the 8 points there that Tsunoda scored, our next team is going to be McLaren. And then we'll have to see if Aston Martin can make a comeback for the season after. But yeah, it's been a fairly straightforward season. Remember, we did up the difficulty to hard. So in the coming seasons, hopefully they will be a little bit more challenging. And hopefully that'll be a good thing. Now, before the end of the season, we have a few things to do. We're going to be focusing a little bit on the research, get that done. But mainly here, we're going to have to go and try and renew Alonso's contract. And we're going to do it now while we still have money in the bank. Now, Haas is going to be a little bit weak/gimped at the start of next season, simply due to the fact that we're going to be spending a lot of their money at this moment. And, okay, so Alonso's apparently retired as well. I missed that message, but yeah, both of our drivers here have elected to retire. That is unfortunate, honestly. So we're gonna have to find some new drivers. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time here on the market. We might as well have a look together, but we do want to get some new drivers for our team. And while it would be interesting or good to snatch some better drivers, I'm a little bit unsure here what we can actually get. We could get Vettel and Schumacher as a duo. But it's gonna be difficult, because as you can see, Stroll is interested, but apart from him, there's not really anyone else. Porsche we could get potentially, Magnussen, not even. So we can't really get anyone higher leveled anyways. And since Haas is gonna have money problems, I think we're gonna go with Vettel and Schumacher as a bit of a combo for next year. I think that would be somewhat interesting, and I'm gonna try and make it a little bit easier for the AI here. I'm just gonna give them a 1-year contract. And maybe 5 million? Maybe 4 million a year? That's probably too little. We probably need to go up towards 8 to 10. It's kind of hard to judge, though, so we'll see how he feels about this. He accepted it for 4 million. Okay. So there we go. We now have Shaw, and we're also going to be picking up Hamilton. But as you might imagine, it's gonna nerf Haas quite a bit, which is well, you could say that this is probably not my brightest moment, but at the same time, financially they're in dire straits. Let's face it like that, and both the drivers are retiring, so we'll have to take that into consideration as well. Schumacher was happy with that too, so that's gonna make driver costs a lot cheaper because Hamilton's current contract is 35 million, and Alonso's current contract is 32 million. So we went from over 60, almost 70 million to 8 million. That's going to help the financials there. Now I'm going to quickly find, honestly, might as well just renew his contract. To be fair, that's not really a problem. Just do a 1-year renewal. If he accepts, of course. He does not. He wants a longer contract. Sure, let's see if you can develop over the next 3 years. I'll give you a chance. And he's happy with that. There we go. Now, with that, we have got the driver pairing fixed for next year. Of course, we're not going to be part of it, but what I'm going to do now is just renew the technical chief's contract and our race engineer's contract, and then we'll have a quick look at how we did in terms of research this year, and maybe what we can expect from Haas next year as a result of that. So I'm going to solve this really, really quick. There we are. Both contracts has been renewed, and basically I gave them an additional 300,000 for next year. Nothing too major. Contract agreed, as you can see here. 150,000 raise, 5 years. And that's basically the same here for the technical chief as well. So nothing too major. And that shouldn't be a big deal. So yeah, contracts have been renewed. The car part development is locked. We failed a few pieces here. But we did kind of struggle, unfortunately, this year with our warehouse and basic components. And that did also help Hamilton here in his charge to the top because, well, Alonso was, for the most part, driving older spec than Hamilton. So that did help his dominance a little bit, I'll be honest. But it is what it is. We kind of have to deal with that. And our next team is going to be the McLaren. And Tsunoda and Albon, potentially. We'll have to see. Maybe, just maybe, we find someone on free transfer. Who knows? But yeah, season is done. I'm going to speed along here. We're going to continue doing any sort of research that we can. We're going to get that big underfloor research done now, tomorrow. That should help us out a little bit. Vasseur has sent us a congratulatory offer for winning with Haas. Blew us out of the water a little bit. Not just a little bit. I'd say we blew you out of the water proper. And Alonso is degrading a little bit in his skills here, but Esteban has decided to take a sabbatical. I don't think that's going to be a big deal, but yeah, underfloor here, huge gains for next year for the Haas team. And if I can, I'd love to put in another underfloor research because it's just so valuable in terms of its performance gains. And we can just do just about one. Again, we have a little bit of money here that we can use. So we're going to be spending all of that on doing, hopefully, 3 more research projects here. The rear wing and front wing is probably going to be chassis. Suspension, we might be able to do one more. Probably not, though, to be fair. It's done in a month. So probably the final research that we're going to do here is going to be a chassis research. And we are reaching the cost cap here. But I'm going to do that, get the research done, and then we'll see exactly how the car looks. And, well, what we can expect, at least, in terms of our research progress this year. So here we are at the end of the year. We managed to get in one additional chassis research. The research benefit here. Let's be fair here, this is basically not accurate, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. And we are now going through the board review for this season. So let's have a look at what we actually got. So we ended up 9th in the fastest pit stop championship, which is fine. Our pit crew wasn't the best. But we did get 1st and 2nd in the championship. We did win everything there. The team rating get boosted by basically double. And we beat all of our goals here massively. So my team principal rating has gone up to maximum, so I should be able to take any team currently. That's going to make things far more interesting. And also, well, not really. Let's be fair. It's not really going to change anything. But also, the thing that's actually going to make things interesting is actually the regulation change for low, medium speed, and high speed cornering abilities. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that is going to affect things. And if we also take a quick look here at the current car, or what we got done. So let's take a look. Suspension, we are lacking. We should have done a lot more with it, honestly. We focused a little bit too much on the development of the car itself. The underfloor, I'm pretty sure this isn't accurate, like it hasn't actually been updated. So, because let's face it, we did we did far more than this. But side pods, small boost, rear wing, a little bit of a boost. We didn't really get. Yeah, it has not been updated because the front wing there isn't been added. As you can see, we did do a front wing research with CFD time, so it's not accurate at all, unfortunately. So I'm gonna go ahead and just reload the game quick, and then we'll see what we can actually see in terms of the gains. And here we are. This is basically the updated numbers, and as you can see, we definitely knocked the drum wing research out of the park. Low speed, 0.54, we're losing 0.34, so still a fairly healthy gain. You can also see the airflow gains, the brake cooling, so that was really, really good. Chassis, decent gains. Rear wing, not as bad as it looked initially, to be fair. We're still losing some cornering ability, but that's just how things are. Sideboard's a little bit gained. The underfloor is actually net gain all around, so a lot better. Suspension is still not looking great, to be honest, but still we did get some things done there. So all in all, the Haas car next year is probably going to be pretty good, at least compared to the AI. But yeah, that was it for this season. Hopefully this video was somewhat decent. I'm still experimenting. I'm saying that for a while, but I'm basically experimenting with the best ways to get these videos done in a way that makes it make sense, makes it still kind of interesting to watch, even in seasons like these where we absolutely dominate. We have as many points as the next three teams combined. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one with that in mind. But let me know what you think. We are going to be jumping in with McLaren next time. Tomorrow I'll be back with hopefully maybe a little bit late in the evening. We'll be back with the Alpha Tauri speedrun. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the boat championships this time around. But I'm also planning to get started probably next week, probably on Friday, with the maximum weight challenge. And I'll be making a poll on the channel itself, which team we should play. Personally, I think we should play Alpine because I think it would be fun to play them with the way things are shaping up in the current season. I think that would be a good option for the maximum weight challenge. But again, let me know what you think. I'll be taking poll opinions into account when I make my final decision. I'm not going to be making any guarantees that I pick the top one because I still think it would be kind of fun and interesting to do something with Alpine. Didn't really do anything with them in the first game and haven't really touched them yet in the second game. So I think it's time to give them some love. So yeah, let's end this here. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. We did give Hamilton an 8th. Alonso had a good run as well. But unfortunately, both of these guys are going to retire. So that sucks. Thanks for watching, though. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.